Hey there, Dave Paulides, Canammissing Project, another copyrighted edition for our video channel. And we are back in the silo. Yes, hallelujah, it is raining outside. And we need it because we are getting so much smoke from Idaho, it's ridiculous. We had like a 160 rating up here on the air quality, which is really bad yesterday. So praying that the rain is going to have an impact on the fires. I'm recording this on the 20th anniversary of 911. And I've been watching all the morning news shows talking about first responders. And I got to say that every time I watch this, it affects me. What I did was I placed a post on Twitter this morning. Here's what I said. My heart is with all the family members who lost a loved one on 911. The heroics displayed by first responders entering buildings, saving a person, and then re-entering to never come out is beyond the words of respect, admiration, integrity, and bravery. Liberty comes with a price. I don't know how the words to describe exactly what happened that day and how it affected me as a person. I don't care what your belief system is about what happened that day. The response by firefighters, paramedics, police officers was synonymous with the response you'd get from any city public service group like that. And in life, we can't generalize. Meaning, if you go into a Walmart in New York City and you have a bad encounter with a clerk, you can't say all clerks are the same. Just like if you stepped in and you walked into a Walmart here in Kalispell, Montana, and you had a great encounter with a clerk there, that all clerks are going to be great. You can't generalize. One bad encounter doesn't mean that the entire group is that way. I've met thousands of police officers in my life at conferences, gatherings, etc. And I can tell you that there's a mentality of police officers and firefighters and paramedics that when bad stuff starts happening, they don't hold back going in. Especially when it's something like what happened in New York. When everyone was scared out of their wits and running for their lives from the towers, who was going in to save more people? Yeah. The thought that some communities want to reduce the number of police officers and firefighters and replace them with social workers or something, I don't know. It's beyond my comprehension. I don't get it. I don't want to live in those communities. I don't want to have anything to do with those communities because that isn't my code. And I know that when I needed help and I called 911, I know that the men and women responding will save me if they can. The number of family members and friends that paid a price for those responders is still happening today. And let's not forget that even though there were thousands of first responders who came to the Twin Towers disaster, thousands of those men and women suffered cancers, respiratory illness, etc., for responding and trying to come to the aid of their fellow workers and citizens. Thousands of them. And their families paid a huge price for this. I don't forget that. I also pray that our country can survive the next year without a similar disaster happening. So that's enough about 9/11. September, it's National Suicide Month. And I want to remind people that I push NAMI real hard, N-A-M-I. Some of you have said, well, I looked it up and I don't live near a NAMI facility. It's irrelevant. NAMI does online classes. You can go to meetings online. They're going to help you. You need to call if you're having mental illness issues. Really, they will help you. I don't care if you're a veteran, first responder. I've gone to these meetings. They're outstanding. I've been on this channel, thousands of you have responded and said that we've helped in some way to show that we care. And all of us here care, because we wouldn't be here unless we did. I wouldn't want you here unless you cared. Everybody's life is important. Everybody's life has meaning. You wouldn't be placed on this earth unless there was a job for you to do. I don't care what you think. Maybe you haven't found it yet. Maybe you need to dig deeper. Maybe you need to follow your passion. Get out of the bubble you live in and start looking for other opportunities. It's there. Don't give up. Another person wrote to me and said, Dave, I've been following your channel for weeks and you never talk about your books. I didn't even realize that your books were still in print because they're so expensive on Amazon. Our books are still in print. You can buy them from our website. They're listed on the pinned comment on this video or under the description of the video right under the screen you're watching. All of our books are $24.99 unless they come with a map, and then they're $29.99. All of our Missing 411 books. So please support us. On to the letters. Dave, I just wanted to tell you I believe strongly in your work and absolutely love that you touch on so many other subjects like mental health, which is so important. Please don't stop speaking out about these things. As a mother of an 18-year-old who has suffered with mental illness most of their lives, it reassures me I'm not alone, and neither is he in a struggle. It's becoming harder to find what he needs, especially since COVID. We've been waiting for years now for a proper assessment to no avail. Total of 8 referrals from doctors, schools, and other programs just in 2 years. We haven't given up and we won't stop fighting for better care for those who, like my son, go unaided. Please keep doing what you do. We need more people like you more than ever. Thank you for what you do, Dave. Again, I'd refer you back to NAMI. NAMI has professionals that deal with this kind of stuff daily. They might be able to refer you to somebody who can help. Next letter. First, please know that you are doing a huge public service in bringing this to the forefront of our community, and the info will spread. Secondly, don't let anyone put pressure on you to get over it, and don't pressure yourself to get over it. You won't get over it. You are a loving, caring father, and it will hurt less as time goes by. I hope so. Time provides some distance from the raw gut level pain that you're in. Remember, disregard people's expectations to get over it. It's kind of a dumb thing to say when you hear it out loud. It's like saying, try to forget him. No, spend your time being thankful for the years you had with him. An extraordinary person and an extraordinary father-son relationship is a lot to be thankful for. Focusing your mind on being thankful will help. Try to turn memories from feeling painful to feeling the joy of the moments you had together. Be gentle with yourself. You, Dave, are a child of the universe. Ben is in the loving hands of Jesus in God's gracious, warm, heavenly home, and he is out of all emotional and mental pain. Man, I hope so. I have little doubt that he had any concept of how much this would hurt. And that's another sentence that is saving lives of everyone that hears you speak. I know it's painful, but you may be saving many families from experiencing this anguish. Keep your focus on your work as much as possible. Keeping your mind busy just helps time move forward. I was a hospice registered nurse, and I've also been through this via a friend, not a son, personally. Just keep on moving forward. Love yourself, love your family. Comfort those around you and pray to God. It's my personal belief that Ben is in the same room as you. A different vibrational level, a parallel universe. There's nothing wrong with asking for a sign that he's okay. You might get it, you might not, but he's with you just as much as when he was in the flesh. I believe we are spiritual beings having a physical experience on this planet, but we all go home to our original spiritual home. Yeah. I'm in pain every day. Some days a lot worse than others. I'm not embarrassed by it. I know the people around me feel helpless, like they can't help, and they really can't. And for them, I feel really bad. But I know there's people a lot worse off than me. I think of Robert Bigelow, who lost his son, lost his grandson. They both took their lives. And then they just recently lost his wife to cancer. My God. What a death blow for life. Next letter. So first of all, I'm 28 years old. I'm a French Canadian from Quebec, not extremely far from the borders with states of Maine and Vermont. I've been watching several of your videos on YouTube since yesterday on the canammissing project, and I have a strong feeling that one strange teenage experience of mine has a connection to all of this. I'm very sure that I almost disappeared like some of the people you talk about. I had suspecting a connection since I started watching your videos, but the story that really convinced me and pushed me to the point of writing to you is the story of Terence Wood. If I heard it correctly, you talked about in the video of November 8th, 2020. Apparently witnesses saw him start running into the woods like a madman as fast as anybody could. Never be seen again. It was a case out of Idaho. I'm almost certain that most of these missing people's cases are due to a similar phenomena that I've personally experienced, and that would make a lot of sense to me to explain why so many of them are found in locations that would never choose to go by themselves. My brother woke up. So when I was a young teenager, probably somewhere between 12 and 14, I was camping one night with my older brother in a tent right outside the house. Not even into the nearby forest that starts a few houses away. I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't recall having a dream nor a vision, nor hearing a voice or any such thing. But somehow in my mind, I was 100% convinced that I had to go into the woods now to meet with what I called the instructor. If I translate it to English, or the teacher. Without hesitation, I just came out of the tent with the intention to go right into the forest alone at night, and it's like I knew exactly the direction to go. My brother woke up, luckily, and stopped me, asking me what in the world I was doing. I told him I have to go see the instructor, and he told me I was crazy and to stop, and I responded, "You don't understand. I really have to go meet the instructor now." But he just kept opposing me verbally from doing it. I became really angry and started screaming at him, telling him he was the worst brother in the world and stuff like that. Eventually I calmed down and came back to my mind and became very creeped out by the event. My brother had never had to restrain me physically ever since I never understood what happened that night, But now watching your video, my gut tells me it's all connected. I often think about what would have happened to me if I did go into the woods. I'm very lucky my brother stopped me, and I wonder if other people had an experience like this and were stopped from following a strange call in their mind. As a Christian, my first idea is that these are evil spirits or demons, but I'm also open-minded. Maybe a mind control technology sending something to your mind, or other possibilities, some we might not even have a name for yet. You talked about the brain being a form of antenna in some of the other videos, and I wonder if that's true, if it could have a connection. Concerning the water connection, there is a lake very near the edge of that forest that I used in the town's water supply. But strangely, that's not the direction I was heading. But who knows, maybe the direction of the call would have changed along the way. Or maybe there was a further water source miles away. I was going in a straight line. Who knows? But yeah, I was not called to go to the immediate nearest body of water, so that's that. I think maybe it's possible people might live the same experience, maybe even stronger, and that's why they just go into a difficult terrain and traverse seemingly impossible distances in directions that make no sense. And what if they run until they literally die from exhaustion? Would it be one thing that it is very difficult to determine as a cause of death when the body is not found very fast, since it leaves no injury? Also, in some cases, you said the distance they traveled made no sense. For example, because the person was old, or they were kids, or kids just don't climb fences and travel at night. But if they were following the same call I was. Anyways, that's my personal piece of the puzzle. I hope you'll get to read this, and then it might help. So thanks for that. Except the one fact is that these people that, especially the kids, that travel phenomenal distances and heights, there's no record of them traveling those distances. What do I mean? There's no tracks. There's no scent trail. So you're presuming that they did make that trip themselves without assistance. I don't know if they did. And I won't make a theory about that right now. But what you heard is interesting. I've read other things from other people about similar experiences, so something we don't understand is happening. Next letter. Just watch your YouTube video posted 8/11/21. In it you mentioned the Farallon Islands. It was a story about a blimp leaving the San Francisco Bay Area and flying out towards the Farallons. I remember you discussing the area before including the disappearances of a Navy airship crew. I found that very interesting at the time, but didn't get to write about it. You have shown the largest cluster of missing people is in the Sierra Nevada mountains centered on Yosemite National Park. What is so interesting is that the Farallon Islands are actually part of the Sierras based on research from the early 1970s. The formation of the San Andreas Fault 25 million years ago resulted in the southern tip of the Sierra Nevada batholith being separated and dragged north. That rock is now the Farallon Islands and part of the adjacent mainland west of the fault. Some more recent research seems to find the granitoid rock of the islands be more similar to the same type of rock in the Mojave Desert, and perhaps it is. However, the Sierras are separated from the Mojave only by the Garlic Fault, so it may be from the same or related magma system. So once again, granitoid rock seems to play a role. Also this, quoting, "The islands are also sometimes referred to by mariners as the Devil's Teeth's Island, in reference to many treacherous underwater shoals in the vicinity." And, quoting, "The Mojave Desert is also home to the Devil's Playground, about 40 miles of dunes and salt flats going in a northwest-southeasterly direction. So granitoid rocks, water, and something named the Devil." Again, God bless. It's pretty interesting. Thanks for that. Next letter. "Hi Dave, I don't know how to start this. I had a 411 experience, and quite the experience it was, I'll tell you. I tried to tell my brother one time, but got the, 'oh, what the drugs were you on' deal. It sounds so far-fetched, but it's the honest to God truth, man. I have so many questions it drives me crazy. When I think about it, which is every day, I can't seem to find any help. I've looked for support groups in my area, but nothing. All I can find online is a comedy about it, which is pretty funny. It's a joke to everyone. I'm so frustrated. I think maybe I'll contact MUFON. What do you think? It's taking me so long to write this, Dave. I can't seem to type more than a few sentences a day. My experiences seem to have a huge effect on my daily life, and no good has come from it at all. Well, I guess I'll get on with it. This particular experience happened in Ruidoso, New Mexico. At the time, I was staying at a dive motel there called Lapines. It was the kind of place where druggies hang out and stay because of the cheaper weekly rates. But it was really run down and getting ready to be torn down because right across the street being built was a huge brand new hotel with stores and the whole kabang. Now, I just got back to the Pines. It was late in the day and I was tired from working all day, and I remember laying on the bed, specifically with my shoes on and feet on the floor, and fell fast asleep. I was going to take a quick nap, and because of the way the floor looked in the room, it disgusted me. So anytime my feet hit the floor, my shoes were on. Now, when I woke up, I had no idea where I was or when I was. I woke up on my back, frozen to the ground, and could not move. All I could see was light, bright light. Shortly later, I was able to barely move. I couldn't sit up, so I kind of rolled over to see I was on a riverbank with my feet barely in the water. I didn't have any shoes or socks on. My pants were on, but not buttoned or zipped. So I try, I can barely move. I wasn't in any pain at all. It was just too much work to move. I remember I was able to get my pants up and buttoned and zipped. I don't remember having a shirt on. I was able to roll over again, now on my stomach. I could see boulders and it looked like I was on the edge of a forest. I tried to stand up, but just didn't have the strength to move. Also, I couldn't because of the sharp rocks my shoes were gone. So I'm on my belly, couldn't move, but then I catch out of the corner of my eye a cabin. So I tried to get up on my knees and crawl to the cabin. Maybe there'd be help there. It felt like it took all I had just to crawl 1 foot. I do not know how long it took me to crawl there, but I remember falling on my face a few times and going in and out of consciousness. Let me stop there. Many of the people that are missing that are found very groggy or actually unconscious. Maybe asleep, maybe drug-induced, I don't know. But I'm talking about young kids in the middle of nowhere, so this is drugs that they're taking. Something else is at play. So what he's saying rings true to me. When I finally made it to the door of the cabin, I had to use the doorknob to help myself stand up. So I pulled myself up and I could see a Mexican woman inside, and she had a baby in her arms and a few toddlers running around the house. I knocked on the door. She walked over and would not open the door. Through the glass, she was pointing in the direction I came from and saying, "No, no English, you go." Talk about frustrating. Of course, I don't speak Spanish. I remember asking her for a phone. I was in no shape to go back the way I came. I noticed some kind of dog bed on the ground next to the door. I was so just tired, exhausted, and could barely move. I just laid down on it and passed out again. The next time I came to, I was able to get up now and try to pull myself together. I stood up, and now I see a Mexican man in the house. He comes out and, like a broken record, said the same as his wife, "No English, you go," and kept pointing the way I came. I remember asking him, "Where are my shoes, and where's my wallet, and where am I?" All he would do is point and say, "Go." I was getting nowhere here. I looked down the driveway and decided not to go that way because of all the gravel, and I could not see a road of any kind in that direction. So I go back the way I came, which was just nothing but following the river. I was able to walk now, but still did not have any shoes, so I did my best to keep on the sand and dirt. I made it around the bend from where I woke from, and holy crap. I was behind the new hotel that was being built. There was nobody around though. I had to half crawl, slash balance myself on huge rocks to make my way through the river and over the retaining wall to get to the parking lot and make my way across the street to the cheap motel where I'd got the owner to let me into my room. I asked him if he saw me leave with anyone at any time. He looked at me standing there with only a pair of pants on and said, "No. Why? Is everything okay? Am I okay? Did you have a good time?" Ha ha. I said everything was fine and thanked him and went in the room and looked for my shoes, my wallet, my keys. Nothing. Nothing. I find nothing, Dave. What the hell just happened to me? Where are my wallet, shoes, and keys? I was not on any drugs nor had been drinking. I was gone for a whole day. A whole day, man. I was dumbfounded. A few days later, I ran into a Mexican man I used to work with, Carlos Villalobos, who barely spoke any English. He asked me about it. He knew the Mexican family that lived in the cabin. He told me that the man there knew who I was and thought I was drunk and lost, and that's why he did not call the police. I guess I scared the woman there. She thought I was trying to break in when I pulled myself up with the help of the door handle, and she called her husband who was at work. That explains why he was there after I woke up next to the door in the dog bed. Dave, can you explain the questions I have? I have more to add. First of all, can I explain what happened? No. No, I can't explain it. But many of the items in that letter that were explained are very similar to the disappearances I've documented. There are some similarities to abductions and MUFON mayhem, but I honestly don't have a lot of faith in some of the avenues they may pursue with you. I've sent an email to this man asking for more details. Hopefully I'll get them back, but I found the story very fascinating. Now today, I'm going to talk to you about 4 cases in northern Michigan. I call this one the Northern Michigan Cluster. And Michigan is a state that has had a variety of different disappearances: water, air, and ground. And they're all very confusing. No easy answers. So I'm going to start with a case from 1948. It's the first case. Robert Lapine. He was 15 years old. And it happened November 19th, about 2 p.m. He lived in a city called Champion. He was a deer hunter. And he told his folks he was going to go deer hunting at their site about 9 miles west of Negaunee, Michigan. Said he'd be back that night, and when he didn't, his father called the sheriff. The sheriff and the dad went out, found his son's vehicle. The search started. And right about when the search starts, it started to storm. Rain, snow, brutal. The town of Champion rallied around this. They canceled sporting events. Everybody, including students, came and searched for Robert. He was an athlete. He was on the basketball and football team. There were as many as 1,100 searchers at one time, but the search went on for weeks. He went to Trout Creek High School right near Champion. So the formal and informal searches for Robert went all the way through the holidays. They didn't give up. And in fact, because it was hunting season, many other hunters went into that area expecting to find him and didn't. When you think about all of the aspects of this case, namely, he was hunting in a watery, boggy area. Weather continued off and on all through the search. And they had brought canines and bloodhounds into search. They didn't pick up a scent. He was never found. So what happened to Robert Lapine? I mean, he was never found. And there were subsequent searches the following year after the snow was gone. Never was found. So, case number 1. Case number 2, Robert Biobee, B-E-I-L-B-Y. Different articles said he was 65 and 68. This happened on November 16th, 1909. November 16th, 1909. He was a deer hunter, and people in his community said he was an expert woodsman. Nobody was better. He was, they set up a hunting camp between Sidnaw and Channing, Michigan. He was with a friend, and they found some tracks of a deer. And he and his friend say, hey, let's split up. We'll go different directions and try to trap the deer. Well, when he didn't show up that night, his friends called the sheriff. And there were 10 days of heavy searches, meaning hundreds of people. And their marshes, creeks, rivers were all dragged, nothing. 3 searches after that month period of time went on for upwards of 3 months. The local newspapers around the area described it as one of the great mysteries of the time. So you have point of separation, water, hunter, weather, in a cluster area. It did snow heavily immediately after Robert disappeared. A couple of similarities: both these people were named Robert, and both of them disappeared in a fairly close proximity to one another. Both of them were hunting alone, and that is a #1 item on the cases I write about in Missing 411 Hunters. It's that point of separation. Something happens. So, next case involves a girl named Beverly Ann Bradley, 2 years old. This is Beverly Ann. Happened May 20th, 1953, 2 years old. Menominee, Michigan, 17 miles north is where their cabin was. She traveled there with her grandmother to open their summer cottage for the family. Lots of cases I write about small kids. They're with their grandparents when something happens. This area has a 100-year history of missing people. She was playing in the yard, disappears, grandmother calls the sheriff. So this is May 20th, 1953. The U.S. Coast Guard sends a helicopter, and they're searching. The state police, the county sheriff, multiple canine teams. The first 48 hours, they found nothing, and they were stunned. 49th hour, the Coast Guard helicopter found her on an old abandoned logging road, laying in the middle of the road with her clothes piled next to her. She was naked. She was taken and flown to St. Joseph Hospital. She had mild hypothermia. She was wearing overalls, which was in the pile of clothes. And a lot of people didn't think she could get those off herself. Nobody was ever arrested or prosecuted, even though the sheriff said he didn't believe the girl could find her way to the location where she was eventually found. Her shoes were clean and her clothes were dry, even though it had rained every day that she was missing. So you have the canines looking for her, can't pick up a scent. The sheriff said that she did not go through that swamp alone, dry and water. And a lot of times in these cases, law enforcement always comes to that conclusion that a kidnapping occurred. I think they were right, but probably not in the conventional sense. So how did she get from point to point? She wasn't placed in the middle of the woods or in an area that would be hard to find. She was placed in an area that would be easily found in the middle of an old logging road which had easy access from up above. And why would she take off all of her clothes? Especially when people didn't think she could do that. Very good question. There were marshes all around this location. She was missing just over 2 days. And she was in an area that you'll see in a second that had lots of disappearances. Last case. Case of Kenneth Scott. This is Kenneth. His dad was a chemical worker. They were from Kingsford. They were at a place called Norway Lakes, Michigan. Happened September 28th, 1958. About 2 p.m. was a disappearance. He was at a hunting camp with his dad and 2 brothers. Well, the 2 brothers were going out into the woods. He followed them out a short distance. They told him to go back. He turned and walked back to camp and disappeared. They looked for him, couldn't find him. Called the sheriff and the state police. Within a day, they had 1,000 searchers, helicopters, airplanes, ground pounders, and the entire time, it's raining heavy. There were bear out in that area, thick woods and swamps. The 4th day of the search, they found Kenneth on a small hillside, face up, with his coat laying beside him. The coroner said he died on a Tuesday. He was found on a Thursday, meaning that he had just been gone a couple days when he died. Searchers stated that he walked 15 miles in 2 days. Whoa. Through swamps and bogs, there's no 4-year-old boy that is going to walk 15 miles in 2 days. That's not happening. I don't think I could do it. The presumption was that he died of hypothermia. If you think about a couple things, point of separation. He was following his 2 brothers. They told him to go back. Camp was just a short distance away. He could see it, and he disappeared. Rain and weather the entire time he's gone. Water was all around him. Canines were at the scene the first day of the search, couldn't pick up a scent. This happened 35 miles north of Iron Mountain, Michigan. I made up this map. This is important. So, here we go. Mr. Lapine, 15 years old, disappeared at this location. And then 30 miles west, Mr. Biobee, 65 or 68 years old, disappeared between Sidnaw and Channing. This is Channing, Sidnaw's up here. Disappeared here. And then 35 miles south is where Kenneth Scott disappeared at Norway Lakes. Quite an interesting triangle. And then 50 miles south is where Beverly Bradley, 2 years old, Menominee, Michigan, disappeared from her grandmother's cabin. Now, as you go out onto this area of Michigan, this is part of the Upper Peninsula region, but in this area, right over here, there's a whole series of hunters I've written about that have disappeared, never been found. As you go up here, there's more hunters that have disappeared and have never been found. And out in here, I did a video about an Air Force jet that was scrambled to chase an unknown object in the sky, disappeared, and was never found. So do I think this area has high strangeness? Unbelievably so. Michigan has always been a place that has intrigued me. First of all, some of the greatest deposits of fresh water in the world are the Great Lakes. The disappearances of airplanes and airliners and jets in the Great Lakes has always bothered me. And people really haven't keyed on this part of it. Again, water, point of separation. Young children, old people. Canines not picking up the scent is a big, important part of this entire research. A lot of people want to make, just like the letter I read earlier, well, you know, maybe something in their mind tells them to go. Except the point is that the distances that are covered don't make any sense. And in my mind, are impossible in some instances. Now, law enforcement, when these cases happen, whether it's one of the 4 cases I just read to you, or it's a brand new case that's evolving right now, the chances that that search and rescue coordinator has any experience of handling a big search and rescue is just about 0. Because they just don't happen that much. Even though we cover a lot of cases here, the reality is it doesn't happen that much in those little counties that we talk about. So the experience level of that coordinator can't count on it. And when they come across something that doesn't make sense, they'll immediately think it's something criminal, like, oh, the person was kidnapped. Now, in the Beverly Ann Bradley case, where she's found in the middle of an abandoned logging road with no tire tracks anywhere, and search and rescue covering it for days, the reality is that a kidnapper is not going to come back into the area and place a body there or place the girl there. That's not happening. It's not happening. There are many other places they could put Beverly where she could be found. As an example, place her right on the side of the road on a main highway when no cars are around. Place her at a rest stop. Place her in a gas station where nobody will ever see you. To place her right back into the search zone is not something a criminal is going to risk. Not happening. And in all of the cases I've documented where this has happened, nobody's ever been prosecuted for anything. Now, in Beverly's case, there was somebody who was detained for a short period of time. They figured out he wasn't involved, they let him go. But that's how the mentality works. Local reports for local consumption. When you look at it on the big picture, and you look at these things happening across the world, your paradigm starts to shift. I don't blame the search and rescue guys at all. Men and women doing a great job. I do wish that they would have a higher perspective of what might be occurring. But then again, when you only look at our subscriber base of 300 plus thousand, that's really not enough to touch around the world. And that is why I ask you to continue to push this project, to make other people aware, to make Forest Service rangers, to make search and rescue coordinators aware that this is happening. Now, granted, there's a lot of search and rescue people I hear about right here. Thank you. Keep up the great work. I like hearing from you. And they all say, Dave, this is happening. People don't want to acknowledge it. The coordinator won't even touch it because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to get ridiculed, and they're afraid they're going to be embarrassed. By who? Who's embarrassing you? The news? If you report facts, you will never be embarrassed. Don't promote a theory or a hypothesis. Just tell the facts. Beverly, if a small child, 2 to 4 years old, and they say that Kenneth Scott traveled 15 miles in 2 days through swamps and bogs, you could factually say, search and rescue books say that the most 95% of the time a young man or a young woman would travel in that distance, 4 miles. So is it reasonable to guess that Kenneth is going to travel 15 miles in that same time frame? No. The news person asks you, how did they do it? I don't know. Now, law enforcement, search and rescue, firefighters, they don't like to use those three famous words. I don't know. Because they think they should know everything, I guess. I don't understand it. But anyhow, those are the 4 cases, northern Michigan. And I hope that people will take this video and spread it around. Tell your friends. Maybe put it on a Michigan website about missing people, or people traveling to Michigan. Sometimes you can touch on people that are going to travel through an area. Put it on a Facebook site for one of those. Also, one last thing. I've had many of you tell me that, oh, this website or that website or this YouTube or that YouTube is just copying in your stories and retelling them. I know. Not much I can do about it. But you can do me a huge favor. Obviously, there's people watching those sites and they're making comments. Please go put a comment up there and say the person that originated this story is here, and go watch his site and hear the story firsthand from the researcher that discovered it. And put the website for the Canammissing Project YouTube page. It would help us a lot. Because a lot of these people watching these videos think, oh my gosh, this guy's so good, he has so many great stories. Yeah, they copied them all from me. So that would help us a lot. That small little gesture on your behalf. And I know a lot of you have greatly supported me from others making disparaging statements. Just recently, one of you sent me a note saying, yeah, someone on a big YouTube channel said, oh, Paulides is an idiot and he's a thief because he's charging $100 for his books on Amazon and eBay. And the person said, the guy obviously, he doesn't even know you, Dave. You sell them for $24.99 on your site. And I tried to correct him, but no one was paying attention. A lot of people in this world like to demean others and pump their chest out and make them look good. And they probably haven't done an ounce of research in their life. And going into the woods, knocking on trees, going into the woods and screaming like an idiot isn't going to solve anything and doesn't make you a researcher. So I don't have a lot of respect for some of those people. Others I have a lot of respect for. But so anyhow, I greatly appreciate you following me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Again, another thing. I've had hundreds of people in the last month write to me and say, hey, I just found out YouTube unsubscribed me. Why is this happening? That's a great question. Please make sure you're subscribed. We have almost 150 videos on this channel now. So you could watch on and on and on for hours listening to various things that we cover. Pray for our country. There's a lot of people missing right now in the U.S. I hope there's good resolution on some of them. I realize some of them aren't ever coming back. Support us. canammissing.com. My YouTube page is David Paulides at Canammissing. My last name is Paulides, Paulides. And you could write to me at missing411@yahoo.com. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. This village supports you. And anyone who says that, Dave, you got to stop talking about mental illness, not happening. It's part of our world. It's affected too many of us, and we have to support each other. I appreciate all of you staying here today. Have a great week.